For more, joining me now is Holden Triplett, former director for counterintelligence at the National Security Council and founder of Trenchcoat Advisors. Holden, welcome. So a senior law enforcement official tells NBC News that the videos posted before the attack, in those, Samsudin Jabbar told his family he considered killing them and that he had joined ISIS. And experts say that the details emerging about Jabbar align with the pattern, a typical pattern of how a veteran can be radicalized to be violent. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, the path that he went on, and in terms of the sort of mental pressure it appears he was under, both financially and emotionally, with failed relationships and some difficulties, at least with the evidence that we have so far. I think the really key thing for me that I think the FBI is focusing on likely at this point is, was he part of something larger? Did he act alone at the sort of proverbial lone wolf, where he learned self-radicalized online, he learned how to do all this, or was he part of a larger cell? And those trips abroad, both to Cairo and to Ottawa, could be indicative of collaboration with an outside group. And that's what is going to be most concerning to the FBI at this point.
So I want to follow up in two parts, that which you've just said. First of all, sort of to counter what he was telling his family, friends, colleagues, they've described him as being very kind, unassuming. His half-brother calling the attack a complete surprise. Is that unusual, or did people in his life just miss warning signs? I mean, can you imagine their shock discovering that he considered killing them? How does that behavior or ideology go unnoticed?
I think a lot of times it's a mixture of people don't see it. It happens slowly. There's some cognitive dissonance that probably goes on, in the sense they don't want to believe that someone might do something like that, even if they start to hear more radical views expressed. It's also possible that he kept a lot of that to himself. Again, if he was working with a group on the outside, it's possible that he was counseled or guided to kind of keep those views to himself and not express them. And so they could not see that transformation happening. But in many ways, this is sort of a mental linked to sort of mental health difficulties, it sounds like, that he was having at the time. And those often, I think, kind of get kind of written off by people, saying, well, that's just, life is difficult. And we couldn't imagine that he would turn so abruptly. But that has happened multiple times: Boston Marathon bombing, multiple other individuals who, Nidal Hasan in the past. Unfortunately, this is the pattern we've seen before.
So what are the discussions about the terror threat to the U.S. that are going on right now in intelligence circles? What are people like you, people who've been in your position before, what are you talking about?
The main thing, as I mentioned before, I think, is they're trying to figure out, is he part of a larger cell? Is that indicative of there is now a more active cell targeting the United States, or targeting large events in the United States, Americans? Obviously, that's gone on in the past at varying levels of specificity. But if he was part of a larger group, essentially he was just the active arm of someone organizing it, then they're looking for other potential plots that may be ongoing. Are there other individuals who have been trained, counseled, and who've been prepping for something?
But Holden, experts are saying that accessing extremist communities online, that it's never been easier, the threat has never been higher, and the ideology of those carrying out attacks has never been more splintered. How difficult does that make the job for authorities to track down, thwart these kinds of attacks? And does it make the lone wolf attacker more elusive than an organized group?
I think it makes it extremely difficult. If you think about what the FBI has on its plate, obviously it's looking at terrorist activities, but it's also looking at state competition. I'm sure tomorrow we could be talking about stuff with China or Russia. So they're dealing with a lot. And I think it makes it extremely difficult. Two things we often look at in terrorism are intent and capability. Does someone have the intent to harm, and are they capable of it? Both have increased dramatically in the last few years, in the sense that people who are upset, disenfranchised, finding communities online who can channel their anger into something more destructive, and then also having the capability, finding out how they could they could conduct these attacks, learning how to do it themselves, and also connecting with people with those abilities. So it has really raised the threat level, I think, pretty significantly in the last couple of years, and it will continue to increase.
Any concerns about the big events happening? January 6th certification tomorrow, President Carter funeral Thursday, inauguration 2 weeks from tomorrow?
those events always have significant kind of risks attached to them. The bigger ones, I think, not to say that they have them locked down, but there's a lot of resources, a lot of attention focused on them. And so I think it's where my worries would be much more on the second tier sort of large gatherings where you have a couple hundred people, which happen all the time across the United States. And they're much more softer and underbelly and sort of easier to target and hit than these large scale events.
Okay. Holden Triplett, sobering, but nonetheless very much appreciated. Thank you for the conversation.